The sun hangs heavy and stagnant over the ruins of a forgotten desert city, where the very air vibrates with the oppressive weight of two colliding worlds. Here, in this graveyard of stone and sand, the silence is not a lack of sound, but a held breath before a cataclysm. A man stands amidst the drifting dust, his orange hat tilted low, his silhouette etched against the shimmering heat. This is Portgas D, the commander of the Whitebeard Pirates, a man whose very veins run with the liquid gold of the Mera Mera no Mi. He moves with the casual grace of a predator who has never known a cage, his presence radiating an aura of untamed heat that turns the surrounding air into a hazy golden mirage. To him, this desert is a throne room, and any who enter are but fuel for his eternal flame. Across the scorched plaza, the shadows begin to betray the light. A single black crow descends from the cloudless sky, its caw a sharp, jagged needle piercing the stillness. Then comes another, and another, until a swirling vortex of obsidian feathers erupts from the earth itself. As the whirlwind dissipates, a figure emerges, cold, calculated, and draped in the crimson-clouded shroud of the Akatsuki. Itachi Uchiha stands perfectly still, his gaze fixed forward with the terrifying clarity of the Sharingan. His eyes are two crimson jewels of judgment, reflecting 1,000 tragedies and 1,000,000 ways to die. The air between them begins to scream as their killing intent intersects. Ace breaks the silence with a confident smirk, his fingers twitching toward his side like a gunslinger in an old-world myth. He speaks of freedom, of the boundless sea, and of the fire that can never be extinguished. But Itachi remains a statue of marble and shadow, his voice a low, melodic drone that speaks not of life, but of the inevitable silence that follows the roar. He tells the pirate that even the brightest star eventually collapses into the dark, and that today, the sun has found its horizon. In a flash of motion too fast for the human eye to track, the peace is shattered. Ace raises his hand, his fingers forming the shape of a barrel, and cries out the name of his technique, Hygen. Streaks of concentrated solar plasma erupt from his fingertips, whistling through the air with the speed of a falling star. The projectiles find their mark, tearing through the chest and skull of the Uchiha prodigy. But there is no spray of blood, no smell of burnt flesh. Instead, the body of Itachi Uchiha shatters into 1,000 black crows that scatter into the wind with a deafening cry. The Fire Fist freezes, his smile faltering as he realizes he has struck nothing but a dream. From the rooftops above, from the shadows below, and from the very air he breathes, the voice of the Uchiha echoes back at him. This is not a battle of strength, but a battle of perception. The first contact has been made, and as the golden flames of the pirate clash against the shifting illusions of the shinobi, the world begins to realize that in this fight, reality itself is the first casualty. The smirk on Ace's face doesn't vanish. It sharpens into a jagged edge of pure defiance. He recognizes the trick now, the crows, the shadows, the shifting reality, and he responds with the only language he truly knows. Overwhelming, unbridled incineration. With a guttural roar that shakes the very foundations of the ruined city, Ace slams his palms into the scorched earth. A massive pillar of golden radiance erupts from his body, a vertical volcano of sentient heat that melts the sand into glass and incinerates the stray feathers of Itachi's illusions. This is the Enkai, the Great Flame Commandment, and it turns the plaza into a literal sun on earth. But as the smoke clears, the pirate sees something that defies the laws of nature. Standing at the edge of the inferno, Itachi Uchiha remains untouched, though his expression has shifted from stoic indifference to a mask of lethal focus. Slowly, Itachi raises his hand to his face, his fingers grazing the edge of his forehead protector, and then his left eye begins to bleed. A single, thick droplet of crimson tracks down his pale cheek like a tear of gore. The 3 tomo in his eye spin with violent velocity, merging into a 3-bladed shuriken. The Mangekyo Sharingan has awakened. Amaterasu, Itachi whispers, his voice barely a breath, yet it carries the weight of a funeral bell. In a heartbeat, the golden world of Ace is invaded by a void. Black flames as dark as the deepest abyss and as cold as the grave ignite directly upon the pirate's shoulder. Ace laughs at first, confident in his status as a Logia user, expecting the flames to simply merge with his own. But the laughter dies in his throat as the black fire begins to consume his golden light. It does not just burn, burn, it devours. It is a celestial paradox, fire that eats fire. Ace screams in genuine agony as the inextinguishable flames of the Uchiha begin to chew through his intangible form, forcing him to do the unthinkable. He literally severs the flaming portion of his own shoulder, shedding a piece of his spiritual essence to escape the spreading black rot. The escalation is no longer a duel, it is an extinction event. Desperate to reclaim the momentum, Ace leaps into the air, his body becoming a swirling vortex of fire. He realizes that he cannot touch this man with mere embers. He must erase the very ground he stands on. He begins to draw every stray spark, every heat signature, and every ounce of solar energy into a single point above his head. A massive swirling sphere of concentrated plasma begins to grow, casting a terrifying flickering light over the desert. It is the Entei, the Fire Emperor, a miniature sun designed to bring about the end of days. Below him, Itachi stands his ground, his silhouette dwarfed by the looming celestial orb. His vision is blurring, his heart is straining under the weight of his terminal illness, and the world is beginning to fade into a gray haze. Yet, he does not flinch. He begins to channel the last of his spiritual energy, not into more fire, but into the ultimate manifestation of his will. Around him, a spectral ribcage begins to form, glowing with a haunting ethereal orange light. The air vibrates with a low, humming frequency as the skeletal structure grows, donning armor and unsheathing a blade that exists only in the realm of myths. The two brothers of tragedy stare each other down, one holding the power of a dying star, the other summoning the guardian of the underworld. The stage is set for the final collision, where the heat of a pirate's heart meets the cold iron of a shinobi's soul. The heavens themselves seem to groan under the weight of the Entei, the Fire Emperor, as it descends like a collapsing star. It is a sphere of pure incandescent destruction, a white-hot sun that swallows the horizon and turns the desert city into a molten crater in a single heartbeat. The roar is deafening, a cacophony of burning oxygen and shattering stone that drowns out the very concept of silence. Ace stands at the center of this cataclysm, his silhouette framed by the roaring gold of his own creation. He watches the spot where the Uchiha stood, confident that no mortal flesh, no matter how steeped in shadow, can survive the core temperature of a supernova. For a fleeting second, the commander of the 2nd Division feels the exhilaration of an absolute victory. The fire has finally cleansed the field, but as the echoes of the explosion fade, the world begins to fail. The vibrant oranges and yellows of the flames do not flicker, they freeze. The smoke does not rise. It hangs in the air like jagged shards of black glass. Suddenly, the sky above the desert cracks, peeling away like old parchment to reveal a void of deep, bruised crimson. The ground beneath Ace's feet turns into a sea of viscous, dark liquid, and the ruined buildings begin to stretch into grotesque, impossible shapes. The pirate gasps, his lungs drawing in air that feels like crushed velvet and cold iron. He tries to ignite his fist to reclaim the warmth of his Logia fruit, but his flames sputter and die. He is no longer in a desert. He is no longer in the physical world. He has been dragged into the Tsukuyomi, and the realm where Itachi Uchiha is God, and where time, mass, and space are merely toys for his amusement. In this twisted dimension of sepia and blood, Itachi materializes not as a man, but as a towering, ethereal architect of despair. He stands before Ace, his eyes no longer bleeding, but glowing with an ancient, terrifying authority. To Ace, it feels as though hours have passed in a single second, 1,000 needles of psychological trauma piercing his mind. He screams, a sound that has no volume in this silent vacuum, as he realizes that the Entei he threw, the victory he tasted, was nothing more than a scripted hallucination. He had been defeated the very moment he looked into those crimson eyes at the start of the encounter. The Fire Fist, the man who could never be touched, finds himself shackled by invisible chains of mental energy, his fiery spirit dampened by the sheer crushing weight of Itachi's will. Back in the physical world, Ace's body stands paralyzed in the center of the smoldering crater, his eyes wide and vacant, staring into a void only he can see. Above him, the spectral orange glow of the Susanoo begins to solidify, no longer just a ribcage but a full armored warrior of myth. In its right hand, the Susanoo manifests a liquid blade that swirls within a gourd, the Sword of Totsuka. This is the ultimate counterstroke, a weapon that does not cut flesh, but severs the soul from reality itself. Itachi, his body trembling from the strain, his vision nearly extinguished by the darkness of his own power, knows that the window is closing. He prepares to strike, moving with a grim, surgical precision. The pirate, trapped in a dream of fire, has no way to know that a nightmare of steel is about to seal his fate forever. The veil of the Tsukuyomi finally shatters, and reality returns with the cold, crushing weight of a falling mountain. Portgas D Ace gasps, his spirit battered by 1,000 perceived lifetimes of torment as his consciousness is slammed back into his physical body. He finds himself standing in the center of the smoldering wasteland he created, but the fires that once roared in his soul have been reduced to flickering embers. His vision is blurred, his heart hammers against his ribs like a trapped bird, and before him, the nightmare has taken its final, titanic form. The Susanoo stands complete, a colossal, ethereal shogun of flickering orange energy, its armored face a mask of ancient divine wrath. It towers over the pirate, a god of war carved from the very essence of the Uchiha's life force. In the Susanoo's right hand, the air begins to ripple and boil as a liquid flame pours from a celestial gourd, solidifying into the legendary sword of Totsuka. This is the end of the line for the Fire Fist, a blade that carries no edge, for it does not seek to draw blood, but to harvest the soul. Itachi Uchiha, now nearly blind, his lungs burning with the metallic tang of his own blood, focuses the last of his fading strength. He knows that a Logia's intangible body is a fortress against physical steel, but against this enchanted blade, there is no sanctuary. The sword is a spiritual vacuum, a weapon that exists on a plane where fire and flesh are one and the same. With a final agonizing roar of defiance, Ace attempts to ignite his entire being, turning himself into a pillar of pure white-hot plasma. He tries to become a sun to melt the very atmosphere and escape the closing trap, but the Susanoo moves with a grace that defies its gargantuan size. The sword of Totsuka lunges forward, a streak of liquid light that pierces through the center of the inferno. There is no sound of impact, no clashing of steel, only a resonant, hollow chime that echoes through the desert. The blade passes through the fire as if it were nothing more than mist, finding the core of Ace's spirit. The pirate's eyes widen as he feels a terrifying, irresistible pull, as if the very universe is being sucked into a single point within the gourd. The ceiling is a sight of haunting beauty. The golden flames of the Mera Mera no Mi are not extinguished. They are unraveling, being spun like silk threads into the mouth of the Susanoo's jar. Ace's physical form begins to dissolve into glowing particles of light, his outstretched hand reaching for a sky he will never see again. In those final seconds, the rage leaves him, replaced by a quiet, tragic understanding. He is being drawn into a world of eternal drunken dreams, a realm where the struggle for the Pirate King and the burdens of his bloodline can no longer reach him. With a final, shimmering flash, the Fire Fist vanishes, and the cork of the gourd is sealed with a thunderous finality. The Susanoo flickers and dies, its orange light receding into the darkening twilight. Itachi Uchiha collapses to his knees, the silence of the desert returning like a shroud. He is alone amidst the glass and ash, his Akatsuki cloak tattered and stained with the cost of his victory. He looks at the spot where the great fire once burned, seeing only the smoldering remains of a cowboy hat resting on the scorched earth. There is no joy in his triumph, only the heavy, familiar burden of a man who has once again sacrificed a kindred spirit at the altar of necessity. As the first stars begin to appear over the ruins, Itachi stands and turns away, his silhouette disappearing into the shadows of the desert, leaving behind only the cold, unblinking moon to watch over the place where a sun was put to rest.